they normally will evolve apart. And the point around this is, how do we start to build this path towards growth? And do you really know what the path to growth is all about? Have you ever thought about it? When you were jotting down these words about growth in the previous exercise, did you ever think about the path that you would need to get to growth? And I've listed some points on the presentation here, which talks about pivoting, growing your business to solve wicked problems, and transforming your business. Now, we all know with the COVID pandemic, the word pivoting has become one of the most prominent words that has featured in the last year. And you often hear business leaders and entrepreneurs talking about, how am I going to pivot my business? And if Liesel, we could just ask maybe one or two people just to write in the chat box, what do they think what pivoting is? How would they define pivoting? Just one or two people would be really great. So
yeah,
we could
please.
just share what the definition is.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, if you would like to comment in the chat on what you think pivoting means, I'm keeping my eyes on the chat. But if one of you would like to maybe unmute yourself and just offer your understanding of pivoting, you're also welcome to.
Liesel, let me throw something out to get the ball rolling. So, I often say, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And remember that with COVID, everything has changed. Your environment has changed, the way we work has changed. COVID has disrupted so many industries. I mean, you think about the disruption to healthcare, the disruption to transport, the disruption to ways of work. So please don't always do what you've always done, because it's not going to work with what's happened. So pivoting, traditionally meant sort of an adjacency or a minor change, but actually now we need much bigger change. If that's if anyone wants to add to that.
Thanks, Craig. I see, Guy, you are not muted. I wasn't sure whether you.
Yeah, I was just trying to put something into the chat. So to me, it's going from an old model to one that's more customer centric and market relevant. So how do we actually change the trajectory? So when I talk about social entrepreneurship, I say not a hand out, not a hand up, rather invest in their fishing business and then help that fishing business disrupt the fishing industry. And to do that, they would have to pivot their business. So don't give a fish. Don't teach to fish, but invest in their fishing business and help their fishing business disrupt the fishing industry.
Great, thank you very much.
Great.
Thanks. Nick?
Thank you, Guy. Yes, no, thanks, Guy, and thanks, Craig. Very, very important. And I think the second bullet there, this is really important. So if we want to also get onto the path of growth, what does it also entail? And that means growing our business to solve wicked problems. Now, probably you're thinking, what is this wicked problem that we're talking about? And from my own experiences and from many others, these wicked problems always refer to the ones that we want to avoid, not the ones that we don't really want to deal with. And if you just reflect for a moment in your own work environments or your own businesses for this as an example, we often hear people that don't want to deal with HR issues or people issues. On the other hand, we have people that don't want to deal with clients because they find that clients can be quite daunting. It can be quite a process to actually, have a discussion with the client or to actually win a sale from the client as well. And these are things that we're going to have to force ourselves to start looking at much more deeply and to get a better understanding of. Because in the current environments in which we operate and the way we're going to operate into the future, we're going to have to take a different stance, because it's a lot more of a competitive environment, and many other people will want to actually beat us at our own games. So we should be able to get into a position where we can start to solve problems much easier and with much vigor rather than trying to park them off. The last point around growth or part to growth is about transforming your business. As you sit down and you work through the challenges of your business currently and how you're going to get around them or how you're going to try to solve them, you also need to prepare for the transformation of your business. And that means, like Craig and Guy sort of alluded to and pointed out, that the current way of doing things is definitely going to change completely. And it would definitely require a new approach, a new norm in which we're going to try and address how we grow our businesses, how we take our businesses forward. So you need to be looking at it constantly of how do you adapt your businesses and how do you transform it to actually stay relevant and to add value back to your customers and to your clients. So quite an important set of points to follow if you want to keep onto the right trajectory or the right path towards growth. There's many other factors that also contribute to finding the right path, but it's essentially important that if we look at pivoting, we look at solving our own problems internally and externally and transforming our business. These are sort of the stepping stones that would get us going towards a path of growth. So as we start to get onto this path of growth, we often would be faced with a very emotive stance, and that is, as we start to let go of certain aspects of our business or our business, we start to feel scared, or we have these scary feelings that keep coming up, okay? And the things that came to mind when I went through my journeys or working in collaboration with other business owners and supporting other entrepreneurs, etc., was some of the following words that came up. Fear. The most obvious one is always about fear. You know, you have this weight on your shoulders as what would happen to my business if I had to let go, or if I started to share my business with others, what would that mean for me? You get a lot of emotion. It could be a lot of excitement. It could be negative. Then there's dynamics of bringing people in as a team. You know, how does that change the current circumstances? How does it change our operating style? How does it change our engagement process? Your mindset. Remember, as an individual and as a owner of this business or an emerging professional entrepreneur, you have a set way in which you do things or the way you address certain aspects of your business. But the minute you bring in different elements into your business, different team members into your business, that could change a lot, and it would definitely impact in your mindset. And your thoughts could start to sway in different directions. And if you look at the caption that I've put there, you could see the lady is on a field trying to let go of stuff so that she could free herself up and start to think a lot more clearly and to act more diligently towards her business. The other point is about transition. You know, change. It's all got to do with change. And we all felt it now with COVID as well. You know, we were all more or less locked indoors, couldn't really get out, we couldn't socialize, we couldn't do the things that we normally used to do. A lot of us have been engaged in discussions and business via Zoom and other chat platforms and other sorts of media. And some of us that were not tech savvy were challenged by these things, and it became quite daunting and scary as to how do we now start to take on a new norm of conducting our business, whereas we were quite comfortable being on our own. Maybe at this point, I'd like to ask Liesel if people want to just write in the chat box. Maybe they've got other thoughts that come to mind about letting go and being scary. It'd be good to know what other people feel.
Yeah, so specifically, it refers to what happens to you if you go through the process of having to make the decision. I need to let go in order to grow. What
Yes.
are the emotions that come up? Please share in the chat again and again. If one or two of you would like to pop in and share what you feel when you go through this process of realizing you need to let go to grow. Just unmute yourself or put your hand up in the chat, in the screen. I'm quickly going through. Welcome to put it there. I'm going to give something away about myself to also get the ball going. For me, Craig, Lana, Mike, you guys don't hold this against me, hey? Letting go of control. I think for some of us is not being in control is a fear factor, maybe. I don't know. Anybody else who would like to join me in revealing stuff
Hello,
about
can I come
yourself? Please, who's that?
Yes, this is Bernard from Ghana.
Hi, yes.
Yes, for me, I particularly experienced it. If you start a business, you are likely to be in charge of everything, especially with the finances. But this thing seems to be coming naturally. As a business owner, you are supposed to be the one to go look for the money and then come to invest. Now, if you decide to take up the issue of financial engineering as well as accounting on yourself as a person, you are likely to be stressed up. So the best thing you need to do is that let go of the accounting bits. So your control over the accounting bit of the business must be let go so that somebody else comes to take up that responsibility. Now, letting it go doesn't mean you have left it off. What you are rather doing is to take up the supervisory role so that you are not in charge of preparing and then accounting for every city or every penny or every cent that is going. You are rather looking at how well the money is being expended in order to bring the income that you require. So on that score, you let go of your responsibility of the accounting function of the business. Let some other qualified person come to take it up. Then you supervise the transactions and all that comes in so that you'll be in a position to bring in the bigger money and then see the business navigate through the changing times. Then
Thank you.
You are not stressed that you have time to think and then equally manage the business. Yes, that's my
Bernard, thanks. Brilliant contribution. Thank you. We have some more here for you, Nick. Nong says,
yes,
trusting the team to take the vision forward. Cleopa says, society, people, what would they say? Then we have Guy here from the 5 Stages of Growth. Is an old HBR classic, but still very relevant. Yeah, excellent comments, Bernard. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing that valuable thoughts. Great, thanks.
excellent.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Nick.
Yes. So as we let go and we manage our scariness and our fears and our emotions, we now need to start considering about how do we start making the shift. And it's important here that in making the shift or this transition, that you clear your mind of any misunderstandings or any misconceptions that you may have about growing your business. And I would encourage you to try and get rid or erase those misconceptions and those misunderstandings, because that most likely will cloud your judgment, and it's going to impact on the way you derive an outcome. Hence, it's important that you have a very, very clear mindset of how you're going to overcome some of these challenges. And with that, you need to be very clear in the path that you want to follow. And it's important also, again, for you to make sound judgments in how you want to make your shift. At this point, it's also very important for you as the business owner or the business leader to start to evolve your thinking exponentially. You need to start thinking about all these possibilities for your business. And this is where your imagination starts to run free, because you need to think of your business with the endless possibilities from a positive aspect. And just to sit back and think, how would my business actually look in 5 years from now if I had done the transition or if I had transformed? And here, by applying an exponential thought framework or thought process, you actually allow yourself to release your mind. You start to think about what is that ideal picture going to look like, that ideal dream that starts to develop. And then you could actually start to see what the real business could likely look like, that really has clout and purpose. And I think what I would like here is to maybe one or two of you, if you want to put your hand up, or you could just write a note, is tell us how do you imagine your business currently, or have you sat back and thought about, wow, this is what my business could look like if I've done the transition, or I start to open my mindset to think exponentially, or what possibilities does your business face right now? But those are from a positive point of view. Liesel?
Yes, absolutely. Just quickly, maybe just one person. I'm just keeping my eye on time progress as well, Nick.
Okay.
So the question is, how can you currently see yourself? Can you see a vision of your business? I think let's get people rather to reflect here in their own time, and maybe
Yes.
explain, Nick, why it's important for you to have this clear mindset and this vision and be able to see it in your imagination, and then we move forward. Thank you.
Thanks. I think it's important because you don't want to be distracted. You don't want your thinking to be distracted. You don't want your mindset to be impacted by anything that's negative, and to be receptive and open to transformation in your business, and open to the fact that your business has to grow in order to be successful and to be sustainable. I think that's really, really important. So as we make the shift, we now start to create an evolution where we start to build. We're starting to build a business, starting to let the growth happen. And it's important in the evolution process that you need to start disrupting yourself. You need to start thinking about a radical change. You need to disturb your norm. And at this point, you need to really test yourself to see, are you ready to make this leap into growth? You need to start looking at how do you introduce big picture thinking into the things that you want to do in the business. And you also need to look at this whole process through a lens, which will give you a better perspective of how business is going to come about and evolve and grow. And I mean, you can see through the caption that's on the slide there, that it's important for us to actually take a view, but the view needs to be done from a very transparent, clear perspective, so that you're not clouded in getting going with your evolution in this business. So as you start to evolve, we've spoken a lot about team, and here it's important that we now need to surround ourselves and build an ecosystem of people with some level of structure that are going to help us to grow this business, contribute to the growth of this business. It's important at this point, again, knowing that you are not the only person that's responsible for the growth and development of this business. You need to have the right team in place, on the right seats on that bus, on the journey towards growth. It's extremely important here, because this would require you to do some serious introspection, look at reconfiguration of your business, a deep dive into how do you rope in the right and the correct skills. What's important here is that the right team does not necessarily mean that the team or those expertise have to be in the business. We need to look at insourcing some of those skills on a as and when basis, or on a project specific basis, or on a demand basis. And there's a lot of new ways of doing things. And think about expertise on demand or contract expertise. We don't need to have the people constantly in our business. We only get them in when we need them, and that actually helps leverage your business from a cost perspective as well. Crowdsourcing for undertaking specific tasks in the business is also very, very important, because we don't have to be saddled with huge wage bills and groups of people and HR issues. At this point, we also need to take advantage of leveraging the expertise currency, critical value for adding growth to our business, because that also gives us an opportunity to learn from specialists and expertise that we may not necessarily have at our disposal. And in all of this, businesses are leaning towards lean structures, lean teams, and gone are the days where people had a number of people cut out for specific functions in the business. Now there's a shift towards having smaller teams, more focus, and ready for growth. So as we start this journey, we start to also get rid of the old ways of doing things, and particularly around linear thinking and manual processes and systems. We start to develop more robust solutions. We start to incorporate the digital journey into our business, because that's where a lot of things are happening globally right now in our businesses as well. If you look at this this picture, it also shows you how things have evolved from the old into the new. So when we start our journey, I'm sure many of you are familiar with where we started off in the old age. We moved from 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, and now we're sitting at 4 hour. So things have really evolved over time, and it means that the digital journey is starting to entrench itself in our businesses and in the way that we do things going forward. So this digital journey means that we've got to start adopting exponential thinking. We've got to start looking at new systems. We've got to start embracing new technologies. And we need to start embarking on this digital journey quite quickly to create a lot of enablement in our businesses. And then we need to do a thorough assessment in order to achieve the growth that we're looking for. What is it that we need to give the scale to our businesses? What does it require? Is it artificial intelligence? Is it IoT? Is it digitalization? So there again, we need to start working with people in order to start getting the right functions into our business in terms of incorporating a digital journey. So as we start to walk this path and we got the digital journey going, we also need to start navigating our way through very complex external environments that need lots of insight. And the insight cannot only come from you. It needs to come from, we need to collaborate, we need to engage various people that will help us with this journey to start necessitating the changes that need to activate growth. We also need to understand that we need to master new skills on our own, but we also need to build agility muscles early on, so that as our business starts to grow, the journey is a lot more smoother at the different stages in our cycles of business. And it's important to note here that technology is definitely disrupting businesses and us individually as well on a daily basis. And in order for us to embrace it, we need to stay relevant. And our markets and the clients that we deal with will also force us to embark on a exponential journey to start changing our thinking. So as we continue to walk this path, it's important to understand that growth is going to force us to actually move into a massive transformative purpose, abbreviated as MTP. So we need to get rid of the old and come in with the new. Old, building huge staff numbers with specific tasks, like having a number of engineers in a consulting environment or in a big business, in a manufacturing facility. The new would mean that we'd only get engineers available remotely and on task-specific purposes. Exponential growth also allows us to use a lot of data in building our business. I mean, data gives us a lot of information. It guides us into how we should grow our businesses, where we should be focusing on, what parts of our business needs to be automated, and where we need to advance. So extremely important because we need these tool sets to actually guide us. So as we continue walking the path of growth, growth starts to show us signs of development. And it's important because as the growth starts to evolve and unleash itself, we see that we are starting to develop individually as well. And in our growth and development and walking down this path, it's important to acknowledge that there are always internal and external factors which will influence the growth of the business. So it's important at this stage to be resilient and keep looking forward. We shouldn't be pulled back by any negative connotations, any negative things that happen in this journey. We just need to keep adapting and allowing ourselves to keep growing. So the focus here is really, really important. So what's your vision? I mean, we've done a lot of exercises earlier on, and here it is very important to keep thinking big, because you need to start stretching your imagination and think about the possibilities here. And here, the ability to transform, the ability to inspire and be inspired by others, and to challenge yourself. It's really important to keep challenging yourself at this point, but also to take inspiration from what is happening in other businesses that are starting to become successful and those that have become successful. And also to learn from lessons of others that have not been successful. What can you take away from that? And it's important here to understand why these suggestions that I'm making to you become so relevant and so important in order to you to think about, how do I make that that change? How do I start thinking about the growth of my business? You need to keep thinking big. It's important. You keep challenging yourself. You keep testing yourself. You keep dreaming. You keep being bold. And you need to ask yourself the question, why does this business exist? There must be a purpose. There must be a reason as to why I need to keep this business going. And in the current circumstances and in the future, there could be endless opportunities that could arise that will allow you to expand the business to greater heights. A business needs to achieve substantial exponential growth, and you need to be able to be agile at all times to allow the growth to unleash itself. So at this point, it's important to understand that letting go will create the business with the massive transformative purpose. You scale and you grow. So we need to keep thinking about positive outcomes and positive visualization. It's extremely important to acknowledge that these things can actually happen. And in that regard, I wanted to share an example. It may not be the most clear example, but most of you, I mean, I think everyone is aware of the death of blockbusters and the rising of Netflix. And, you know, again, it's about the death of blockbusters was largely around not being able to see into the future, not being able to visualize, not to be able to think about the different attributes that could help with the growth. Whereas Netflix identified an opportunity and decided to take it on and created a whole new market. And out of that, there's endless opportunities that are starting to evolve out of that opportunity that was first identified. So with this, we need to create a lot of intrinsic value. And this value will allow the business to follow the right strategy and be able to build on that value into the future. The more you visualize, the greater the ability to put forward plans. So the more you start thinking and you share those thoughts, you share those visions, you share those imaginative thoughts with with teams and fellow team members, you get to bounce these ideas. You get to look at what could actually come out of that. You create a lot more opportunities. You could realize that if we shifted the focus a bit, our business can start to move forward. And value is built not only for your business but also for your teams, because you allow them to stretch themselves as well. And your clients then start to see that you're really applying yourselves into a growth phase. You're starting to look at things differently. You're embracing the changing dynamics in the environment in which you operate. And every phase of growth unlocks value creation in your growth journey. It's extremely important to understand that as you keep growing and you keep embarking on the journey of growth, you create a lot more value. And that value could lead on to a lot more other opportunities. So creating growth value and with a particular focus on building blocks for growth means that you need to embrace and take on a team. You need to understand the growth and the possibilities with your products and your services. And then lastly, with quality and service, you need to have these sort of attributes and these factors factored in to your building blocks for growth, because that's where you as a business will achieve a lot more success, and clients will embrace these aspects as well. And I think this is a good point for me to sort of conclude, Liesl, because we just need to keep letting go to grow.
Nick, thank you very much for this. I think what I would like to do is invite questions. Maybe go back to the previous slides, Nick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Please, we've got some time available for some questions and comments and contributions from all of you in terms of this topic to letting go to grow. So if you have any learnings you would like to share, any contributions you would like to make to the presentation, and then also ask questions, you're more than welcome to either put your hand up or pop a question or comment in the chat, or unmute yourself to come in. Anybody who would like to add an experience they've had? Guy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I posted it on the chat earlier. I'm a solopreneur, and the most difficult hire is the first hire. So I've been thinking for some time of taking advantage of the SARS intern, hiring an intern who could work remotely and help me and take over some of the things that I'm not good at, like the admin and the following up and things like that. I was just wondering whether anybody on this discussion, particularly South Africans obviously, have any experience with hiring an intern, and where's the best place to source that? Thanks.
Okay, thanks. You can pop a response there in the Zoom chat to Guy. I think I know somebody unmuted. I don't know who that is. You're welcome to start speaking. Craig, is that you?
Yeah, I will send Guy Tanya Roeder's details to help him with that.
Craig, you also had in the chat, you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned as well earlier, Nick, where we referred to your innovative product that you took from an idea into an established business now. How did you come up with Munch Bowls, and how did you personally let go to grow that business, Nick?
Thanks, Liesl. I think it all started off as an idea by my business partner in a kitchen some time back. But I think what actually prompted the whole thing was the challenges that we face around pollution and waste, etc., and trying to cut out the plastics that are being used, globally at the moment. And the birth of the edible munch bowl through lots of R&D was eventually developed. And I think what's critical there is that I think my partner at that point then realized that all cannot be done just purely by one individual. It needs a team of people to actually get on board, to take up different aspects of the business, and to help steer some of the areas where people have particular strengths, and it also to leverage off those strengths of the fellow team members, and that then started to create other opportunities. You started to get access to market much quicker. You started to build product rapport much quicker. You started to build a wider network, which then gave you a lot more credibility in the market as well. And collaboration was one of the key aspects. Dealing with people who are specialists or have specialist know-how in particular areas, such as manufacturing and industrial engineering, etc. So it's important to understand that each of us have got certain strengths and weaknesses, and we need to push the right levers at the right time to be able to activate and to bring on board the right people. And I think that's what's going to keep driving us to keep pushing forward and to become more successful.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Craig now. He's got his hand up. But I think what struck me about the story you shared there, Nick, is that you were very clear on a very big, massive, transformative purpose. And that is something that guided you and steered you and motivated you along the way. Craig, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I absolutely love the concept of Munch Bowls and the product. So congratulations, Nick. I mean, that's truly amazing. Now, what really intrigues me is, did you come up with an edible bowl as the very first idea? And how much did that change? Was it like in the first place maybe you see a lot of recyclable and that type of thing. Did it really start as an edible munch bowl first? And then, of course, what kind of materials and, so I'm just trying to explore adaptability here and understand that aspect. Nick, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thanks, Craig. It's an important question. I think if I go back to all the discussions that I had with my partner, when she got going with this and sort of tapped her brain into how she thought about it, etc. And it sort of all culminated in the fact that if we could try and stop the waste, close to being completely, there must be a solution where people could have a twofold benefit from using such a product. And an edible was definitely on the cards, something where people could derive a benefit of not only having just your meal only, but if you could actually eat the product whilst having your meal or after having your meal, then you actually become a consumer or an individual that doesn't actually contribute further to a waste crisis or to pollution. But there's a level of value that was being created in the bowl itself from a nutritional perspective. So you could actually benefit from that, although it's not gluten-free or something at the moment. But there is definitely a purpose in an alternative market for using such a product, and I think that's where the value of looking at how do we transform what we have currently to something that's going to create unique value for anyone that actually wants to eat a plate of food or a bowl of food. And I think that's where we made the change.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And was this a side hustle for you, or would you see it as an adjacent kind of thing? Curious.
Yeah, no, I saw it as an opportunity to get involved with my partner, because it's something that needed some level of input from a commercial point, and from a technical point. Me having a waste background, I felt that my contributions could actually help start to make a difference. So I think, to answer it in totality, it's actually taking something that started off as an idea and now trying to create it as a fully commercial, viable business. Not only here, but trying to take it globally.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. And I mean, especially the part of the fact that the bowl adds to the nutritional, consumption of the user, or of the person that's eating the bowl. I mean, that's mind blowing, and really a great example of how one can now for something completely different kind of thinking. So, no, congratulations on that.